We are live here on YouTube. I am here in the studio, and I decided to do more of a feel of how I like to watch games whenever I'm not streaming them live here on YouTube. And so tonight it's just a pregame here with you, the fans, and to really get a sense of what we're thinking about tonight's playoff game between Alabama and Oklahoma. Of course, it's really gonna be interesting to see how this goes. Um, I wanted to try a stream from my iPad, and so this gives me the opportunity to do so. So here we are. Got a really interesting game coming up tonight. Number 9 Alabama against number 8 Oklahoma, and I gotta say this. This is one of those games that I don't think a lot of people would have thought we were going to have for the first round. Um, when you look at things, you look at Alabama, for instance, has not been. It's been an interesting situation for Alabama, if we're being honest. Um, Started out, you had the loss to Florida State, and then of course, you know, you had loss to Florida State at the beginning of the year, turn around, you have a lot of success in the middle of the season. You get to November, you lose to Oklahoma, then you finish out the season 10-2, go to the SEC championship game, lose to Georgia in Atlanta in the SEC championship game, ultimately splitting, between Alabama and Oklahoma. Alabama and Georgia split the season series. Bama won in Athens, and then of course Georgia winning the SEC title game. So tonight's game is really interesting. Oklahoma, they started out the season undefeated. Got to think they lost to Texas and Ole Miss. That's right, which is in the middle of the season. Of course, beating Alabama at Alabama, and they finished the year 10-2. Didn't have to play for the SEC title game, and so really interesting. How both these teams got here. There's a lot of controversy, I think, between with Alabama as far as them getting in. A lot of people saying they didn't deserve to get in, but after the way they played against Georgia, and plus they were a 3-loss team, I don't think a lot of people really thought Alabama should have been there, but they were. They're here, and so it makes for a really interesting situation. Now, I already did my bracket picks. Tonight's game, though, legitimately, I think that what you're going to have to see from both teams, I think it's going to come down to, first of all, when we look at both of these teams are really good defensively. I think this is going to be a low-scoring defensive football game, one that I think a lot of people, if you're a fan of old-school college football, is what you're going to get. On the other hand, you look at offensively, it's going to come down to which team has gotten the better players as far as offensively. Who's gotten healthier out with the time off that they've had is going to be big, and so it's going to be really interesting to see this matchup here tonight. I'm really excited, and so really, like I said, offensively is going to be the biggest key in this game because we're going to see which team, like I said, who makes more plays at the end of the day. That's the key to this ball game here tonight. So, like I said, I wanted to come on here live on just YouTube, try out the YouTube live streamer like this, just because I could. So, I've not tried any of these. Highlight save to your channel as unlisted video up to 5 minutes. Interesting. I don't know what I just did. But, yeah, really interesting. So, got one like. Nice. But yeah, Alabama and Oklahoma coming up tonight. Going to be a really interesting ball game. I don't know how I'm able to see the comments, but if you're here joining me here tonight, leave a comment. Leave a comment for sure, because I would like to see, who's all hopping on here tonight for tonight's live stream. I'm going to try to pull the stream back up on my phone right here. Got it plugged up charging while I'm live. Kind of interesting. Just, viewing it like this. Got about 54 minutes until game time here tonight. So, really excited for this ball game. Also, if you look at the games tomorrow, which I may come on here and do a little something tomorrow, maybe like this, or I'm not sure yet. I'll decide later. But you got Miami and Texas A&M. That's the early game, and then you're gonna have Tulane Ole Miss. That's the 2:30, and then 6:30 is Oregon and James Madison. Miami and Texas A&M. That's a really interesting ball game when you think of two teams that are going to be, when you look at how it's going to come down to, I think, offensively for that game as well. Carson Beck, I think, is the biggest question mark here, because which Carson Beck do you get? Do you get the one where he's going to throw? Is he going to throw the interceptions and make the mistakes, or is it going to be the Carson Beck that played at Georgia that was a Heisman contender? That's really the question we have going into that game tomorrow afternoon. Marcel Reed, again, he's another guy who was a Heisman candidate this season. I mean, he was good. Then Texas game happened. How does he respond in that matchup against Miami tomorrow afternoon? It's going to be really fun to see. So, got a lot of fun matchups tonight and tomorrow afternoon. Going to be a lot of fun to watch all of that. Well, folks, I wanted to just come on here for a few minutes, give my take. Ultimately, like I picked in my bracket, I got Alabama winning tonight. I got Miami tomorrow, and then I got Ole Miss and Oregon as well tomorrow. So that's my picks for the college football playoffs. And so it's going to be a lot of fun, for sure. So, we may come on a little bit later in the game tonight just to, give you an update. But I want to come on here for pregame just to give you my thoughts on the game. I think Alabama, their offense is just going to make just maybe one or two more plays on offense. Key for Alabama, too, don't turn the ball over like you did against Oklahoma there in Tuscaloosa, and you should be okay. Because if Oklahoma's offense plays the same way. So, with all that being said, folks, that is pretty much all I have here for tonight with this pregame stream. I'll come back potentially near the end of the game. And so, with that all being said, thanks for watching, and we will see you again later.